This is a quick video on putting the sticker shock vinyl markings onto a Dynasoar rocketry orbital shuttle kit. This is a new kit, and I wanted to kind of show just what I do. They're pretty simple to put on. I've already gone ahead, the model's completed and the radio's installed. I've gone ahead and done some panel lines, and those are really simply done. I just have a straight edge, a triangle, and fine line Sharpie marker, and basically I'm just laying it down, and I do a couple of passes with the Sharpie, and you know, it's just kind of freehand. I'll do one side and then measure it and replicate it on the other side. I haven't done the rudder yet. I'll do that after I put the decals on, since you can see where the edge needs to be. You know, you can do what you want. Just adding a few panel lines onto the wing kind of adds some detail and makes it look a little bit less plain. There's no wrong answer. You can look at some 3 views of other airplanes with a similar wing shape like that and get an idea what to do. Just something that, you know, looks appealing to you, or looks like, you know, where panel lines or leading edge slats would be, or elevons. In this case, I've done these elevons angled because on the original orbital transport glider, the elevons were cut at an angle. I use straight elevons because they're simple and it's easy to put the settings on them. I know what they need to be. So I just drew a line there, and I'll put an accent mark so it looks like they're angled, and I put some little accent ribs there just to kind of make them stand out a little bit more and make it look like the original, just to kind of fool the user. So that's all there is on the panel lines. You can do it on the body as well. I'll take an old piece of, or take a piece of styrene strip, cut a little strip. You can lay it over the tube and use that as a guideline to draw lines on the tube if you want to. I have put a red stripe on the bottom. It's not so much for orientation for me because I don't have too much trouble figuring out which direction is up. This helps protect the belly a little bit from wetness when you're landing. Since I haven't painted the body tube, it prevents water from getting into the body tube on the bottom when you're landing. So that's really all that's there for. That doesn't come with the decals. I just got a 2-inch wide strip of material from Mark when I ordered the decals, and you can do that. You can use trim monocoat. You can use anything you want to. So what I've done is the vinyl markings come in 2 sheets, one with red and one with black. And I've just taken my straight edge and cut out around each of the decals, and I've cut very, very close to the edges so I don't have a lot of extra overlap. And I've tried to cut as straight as I can under the lettering and on the square outline so I can see what the shape is. Because when I place them by hand, I just want to be able to orient them kind of straight. So I've already done that. And then I did 2 things on the decal, the sticker shock sticker that came with the kit. I've taken 2 of those and I've cut out the little planet with the Dynasoar rocket on it and the little thing that says Dynasoar, and allowed those onto the rocket just because I'm a nerd and I wanted to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the tail markings. So the tail markings are on 1 sheet with the right spacing. I have not cut out this portion. You don't need to do that. So the vinyl markings are on transfer paper. So they're on the thick backing that has the checkerboard, and what you're going to want to do is take a little X-Acto and get underneath the red marking and peel that off with the transfer paper on the front, and you can kind of see through the transfer paper. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over here to the tail and hold that against it and kind of center it with the leading edge and push that down. So I'm going to rub fairly strongly onto the vinyl, because what you want to rub on the colored areas. So what you want to do is you want the vinyl to stick, and then you're going to peel the transfer paper off. So now I'm going to take my X-Acto. Now the problem is on this, on the foam and the cardboard, since it's not painted, you don't want the markings to just peel off. So the best way to do this is get a corner, and you're going to rub your hands and just roll it straight. You're not going to pull out on the decal because that'll pull it away from the foam, and you'll leave some foam on the surface of the marking, and then it won't stick that well. So basically you're just rubbing your thumbs and you're kind of pushing down on the vinyl, and you're going to do this on all of the markings, and what that does is that just makes sure that the marking stays in place and you're not peeling the marking up with the transfer paper. Okay, so now that's there. Nice, see, that was easy. One piece, and the spacing is perfect, and the line is nice and even. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the end markings. Same thing. So I'm just doing this live, so if I screw up, you'll see it. Okay, so I've got one of the end markings. I'm going to use my little X-Acto. I'll kind of stick it to the blade so I can hold it without touching the sticky stuff too much. And all I'm doing is just kind of eyeballing it in the middle, making sure it looks kind of straight. Push it down, and then you peel the transfer paper off. And again, this is very important on these little letters. You push down against the letter and the transfer paper as you start on a new letter. Otherwise, it'll start to pull the letter away because it hasn't fully stuck yet. And we're going to heat these with a hairdryer to soften and make them stick down really well. But as you're going across each new letter, you want to push, and again, you're peeling directly straight back and pushing in at the same time so that they don't come loose. Okay, so we've got the end number on there, and then I'm going to take my nerdy little planet. On the original orbital transport, they had kind of a little planet dealy thing on the tail, so I'm going to use my little orbital shuttle, and I'm going to put that sort of halfway on the tail and the white so it stands out. So that's it for the tail. And we'll do it on the other side in a minute here. So turn that at an angle. And again, you can do this in whatever order you want to. There's no real order that needs to be done. So I'm going to take one of these large side fuselage stripes and put that on. Now I've cut around it. You'll see that there's the hatch on the bottom, and that hatch is going to go about abutting with the bottom of the wing, and the stripe should be more or less parallel. And so you kind of want to center this so that you've got a little of this little arrow thing maybe up toward the leading edge of the wing. Again, there's really no right answer. It's whatever looks good for you. I like to put the dynasoar name underneath that, so that's why I'm leaving a little room there. So I just kind of hand place this very lightly. I made sure the bottom of the door is even with the bottom of the wing, and I can kind of see that spacing. That looks pretty good. So that's good. You just want to rub both sides. Now you see that I got a little wrinkle, so you just pull up slightly and push that down, push that in down. And so the idea is if you don't push down very hard as you're getting it figured out, it's really easy to slowly and carefully peel it up. You just want to be especially careful, like with the letters. If you push down too hard, it'll start to leave the letters off, and then you got to be a little more creative in getting it off. So again, now I'm starting with one end, and I'm peeling with my thumb, and I'm kind of pushing down against the marking and rolling it back. Rolling it back. And Mark's done a really nice job on these decals. They look really good installed. So especially on these fine little lines, you want to be careful and not rub too hard and they'll, and peel them off. You want to kind of push straight down as you're doing it. So just take your time. And then I just there. That's pretty nice. Okay. Then I'm going to take my little thing that says dynasoar here, and I'm going to actually put that up here. Yeah. That looks a little bit nicer there. And I'm going to take one of the little end numbers. Now these end numbers, again, as you peel, sometimes the numbers don't want to come. So if you just push this back down and peel a little bit harder, eventually the number will come and it'll all stay stuck to the transfer sheet. Worst case, you get a little X-Acto under there and you kind of pick at the number and make sure that it goes with it. I'm going to put the end number right here under the front edge of the fuselage stripe. Again, I just eyeballed, I said, yeah, that looks pretty good. Again, there's no right or wrong, there's no exact placement, do what you want. You know, if it looks good, if you like the placement, go for it. Okay, so we've got the end number, got the side stripe, the windows and the door are already put on there, so that's all cool. And let's go with the orbital transport marking. Now in this one, I think it looks nicer close to the red line, so I'm going to do it over the door hatch just a little bit. If you get up too high, I think it looks a little bit funny. And you know what? I'm gonna do something creative here. So this is just freehand. I'm gonna slice that little door off. Carefully. I'm just gonna set that right there. I'm gonna put the markings down and then come back and put that back on. On the other side of the door, the other side of the fuselage, the door is on the front, so it's not really in the way. So you can see this letter didn't want to come with it, so I'll just go back and push and kind of peel slowly. And there, and finally see the S didn't go. There, now it's finally there. I just want to make sure it's down so it stays straight. Okay. And then I kind of pulled the S off with my finger, so I'm going to just use my X-Acto to make sure the S is straight. And I'm kind of sticking that side to it with my X-Acto so I can see what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is messing it up. Okay, so I'll take a second here to just push it down and make sure it's flat and not buggered up, so I'll go above it like that. So I'm using that just to hold the front, and then I just get it straight and I say, okay, that looks about right. Now, as you lay it down, go from one end to the other so you don't cause a wrinkle. Rub back and forth. If you ever have to pull this stuff up and move it on the cardboard if you haven't painted it, which, again, I don't like to paint my stuff because it just adds weight. And again, you want to be careful wiping because you can actually peel these and roll them up into a ball, so you want to just make sure you're kind of pushing straight down on it and not dragging across it too much. Okay, now I'm going to take this little door that I had, and it was right there. And I'm going to put that on top here. Hopefully, if the planets align. Just lay that down on top there. So the door is kind of on top of the door outline is kind of over the writing, and I think that looks okay. You could certainly do the writing over the door, doesn't matter. Or you could do the writing a little higher if you don't mind that. Or you could cut this door off and move it to the front or the back, whatever you want to do. Again, there's no right or wrong on this. And okay, so then, the next thing I want to do is take one of the red stripes. Oh, I'm an idiot. So I just noticed that the letter S is stuck to my finger. So So that fooling around with the knife on top of the letter kind of stuck to my hand. So I'll go back here. Look at that. Not the right spacing. Kind of sure it looks like it's sort of about where it wants to be. Rub that down, and once we heat that up, it'll be stuck good. So okay. All right, so now I'm going to take one of the red stripes. And again, well, when I'm done with this, I'll just do the other side without saying too much. And all I'm doing is just eyeballing it to make sure that I'm starting in about the same place. You can use a ruler and measure and say, okay, I started there, so that things line up about right. Okay, so I'm going to put one stripe on, red stripe, and I'm going to put that on about 1/4 inch from the end and make it kind of straight. And again, it's not super critical. You're going to eyeball the other side when you do it and just make sure that they're more or less the same. And that one I kind of did a crappy job on. I'm going to get my little knife under here and carefully peel that. In the kit, he includes 4 of these, and you only really need 2, so if you mess one up, like if you have to touch it too much or you have to peel it up all the way and it's lost its stickiness. Okay, so I just straighten that out, good as new. And so these are just little details that were kind of on the original kit. I don't know what they do, but they look kind of cool. So then I'm going to put 3 of the boxes, these red boxes. So again, you want to start the first one up so it's parallel with the vertical fin, and you want it up as high as you can so you have enough room to fill these in here. I'm going to put one there, and then again peel that transfer paper off, and kind of, now especially on these thin lines you have to go slow and careful and make sure you're peeling straight back so you don't peel the thin little line. You want to be careful too getting them ready. So here we just have to be a little more careful that we're getting them more or less aligned. That looks pretty good and pretty straight. And I've left just a little gap. You don't want to leave too much gap or you're going to run out of room and it'll be down underneath the elbow there. Okay, there's number 2. So yeah, you can always be super anal and use a ruler and make little tick marks if you want to be precise about it. I'm super lazy when it comes to this stuff, and as long as it looks pretty good, I'm okay. So here it's gone a little bit below the surface, so I'm just going to move my elevon by hand up out of the way a little bit, so I can push it down, and so I can push the transfer paper off. Okay. So I've got my 3 little boxes there, and then get one of the black stripes. Okay, and so on the black stripe, it's a little bit more forward. Maybe about there, maybe about yeah, 2 inches or so. And the main thing is this one has to fit in between the wing and the vertical stab, so you want to start it a little close to the vertical stab so that you're sure you have enough room. You can always trim it if you get too close to the wing line. So there, that one's kind of cool and spacey. Alright, so now I'm going to take one of the long black lines. Cat, what are you doing? Okay, now I've pre-marked the angle line. I've gone up about 2.5 inches inboard and maybe 3/4 of an inch there. Again, this super doesn't matter at all. This is just for looks, and so all I'm doing is I'm getting on top of that line more or less, rubbing it down. Fill that up a little bit. I felt a little wrinkle there. So I'm just getting on top of that line, so I'm going to see the trim tape and not the line that I drew. And I'm going to use my X-Acto and cut that flush, and I'm going to do that now. It's a little easier to cut a straight line with the backing paper on it. And then I'm going to take the backing paper off. And rub down. And when we heat this with the hairdryer, this will stick down really nice and kind of sink into the surface of the foam, which has a little bit of texture. So then when you look from an angle a little bit with those sort of corrugation lines I've drawn, it kind of looks like the angled tips of the original kit. So that's one side. So I'm going to make sure my cone is straight. I'm going to take my straight edge and kind of lay it along the middle of the body tube. I'm going to take my ruler so it gets more or less parallel with that. I'm going to make just a little faint tick mark with my ruler. And I'll look down the front and just say, does this look kind of like it's in the middle? This is for the cockpit marking, so. So again, I'm just making a little index mark. So I know roughly how I want to center the cockpit. So I'm going to draw a 90-degree line on this guy. Kind of dividing it so when I place this thing, it'll be more or less correct. Again, coming to the windows, need a little persuasion to come. So again, this is sort of taster's choice. If you want this a little bit more out toward the nose or back a little bit, what you think looks more appropriate. So I'm going to lightly touch it there. Get the wing tips about level and look at the vertical tail and say, does that look about straight? And I think that does. I'm going to push that down. Now, if you ever need to remove Sharpie marker from the cone, you can actually kind of, sometimes it'll rub off, but if you have a super glue accelerator and you spray it lightly on a Q-tip, that'll also take off permanent marker from the wing panel lines also. You just have to be careful when you use your Sharpie not to press too hard into the foam, because it will actually make a groove in there, so it makes it harder to get the marking line off. You can't get it off of the cardboard because it's soaked into the paper. But right. That looks like a cockpit. Okay, I'll go ahead and do the other side about how I did this side. And let's see if I make the same twice. So I'm not pushing down hard yet. Kind of make sure that's good, and then I kind of go from the middle out, in the middle. Yeah, now I have a wrinkle here, but it doesn't matter because that's on the transfer paper. Okay, so I'm going to peeling this straight down while pushing against the vinyl itself. Good. And there is one thing I forgot to do. I forgot to draw the rudder on there. I'll do that when I finish this. There's the end marking. So I'm going to get it more or less centered. That looks pretty good. Go down. Again, especially on the letters, you're pushing in on each letter as you roll, especially as you're starting a new letter, and especially where the end goes up and the little leg is not supported here. If you're pulling up, you may pull up the leg of the letter or the number. And if you're really bad about it, you could actually stretch or bugger up the number itself. So I'm just going to kind of measure. I was about 1 3/8 down from the top on the other side, so I'll just do that. Try to be a good example. That's about halfway over the rocket going up. Okay, so let's place that. So let's do the tail lines. I'm making sure my Sharpie is working. If you have assistance, I'm just using a little cutting board there. I know this maybe, can you see that, Olivia? So what I'm doing is I am just making a line about 1/8 of an inch from the colored portion all the way out. I'm going to draw the line around the back a little bit so that we can see it. When we do the other side, we'll know where to stop or where to start. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Again, there's really no right, no wrong. So about 1/8 of an inch from the colored portion. Extend the line down here. And then, and I'd like to use a clear triangle so I can see what the gaps look like. Okay, so now you just want the gap to be evenly spaced with the color on the top and the bottom, and I'll typically just draw over the markings. And if you wanted, you could put a little trim tab. Like that. So there we go. There's a rudder. So let's do the other side. Now I have to be careful. So now I've made those little lines, so I'm going to draw them around a little bit so I know where I was. So yeah, I'm just doing this freehand. You can take little guidelines or whatever you need to do to help steady your hand. So I'm using my hip to hold this up against the counter here, so I'm not straining the vertical stab. I'm going to snap it off. So again, I'm going to draw that in to about 1/8 of an inch. Here. Let's see. So again, there's no right or wrong on this. It's just, you know, something that kind of adds a little detail, so when you see it from a distance, you go, oh, that kind of looks neat, kind of looks real. Okay, you can see that kind of adds a neat little detail, and it looks pretty good. It kind of finishes it off, otherwise it looks kind of plain. And then I've also used my ruler and made my CG marks here, so when I balance it, I'll balance it upside down using the CG marks. That's 13 inches from the end of the tube. And I'll use those later for the to make sure that the center of gravity is right. And you're going to balance that with a loaded motor in the tail, because that's the most tail heavy it's going to be, and the center of gravity marking is set. That's the most rearward the balance should be when you take off, and then it gets nose heavy and more stable as you fly it. So now I'm just looking down from the top, and I'm aligning that other side stripe that we put on first. And once again, I did a shitty job.